Hi. So, I figured we should probably talk about all of the things that have happened to me along the way since 2017. I'm going to go way back with my whole cancer journey, my ups and my downs, and how I got to where I am now because nobody has the same road. So, I have some notes written down, so that's what I'm going to be looking off to the side. But I would say it was probably April of 2017, I had a lymph node here that just would get bigger and it would get smaller. It would get bigger and it would get smaller. And I wasn't too worried about it. My doctor wasn't worried about it either. Fast forward till July of 2017, I couldn't breathe, was having really bad respiratory issues. My doctor told me that, well, this is probably June, not quite July yet. My doctor told me that it was probably allergy-induced asthma, or that I had a bacterial infection on top of a viral infection. Then my friend was getting married, and my other friends flew in town, and I just felt terrible. So I went and had a chest x-ray. My whole chest was covered in lymph nodes, which was why it was so hard for me to breathe. So after that, I ended up having a great time at the wedding because I knew that it was going to be bad news. And on July 12th of 2017, I was officially diagnosed with lymphoma. We didn't know what kind it was at the time. I had to have biopsies done and more stuff done, but probably the end of July, I was diagnosed with stage 4 classical Hodgkins lymphoma with the bulky disease. I had a mass on my chest that was, I think it was 15 centimeters, so it was huge. So this is one lymph node that grew to be 15 centimeters, probably a little bit smaller than that, sitting on my lungs, which is why it was so hard for me to breathe, where a lot of your lymph nodes are like the size of a pea, if not smaller, and you can't even feel them. So that happened. I went with a doctor when I was living in Maine, and he looked at me and he was like, Jen, I know that you're here, but why wouldn't you go do treatment in Boston? Like, I said, well, actually tomorrow I have another appointment with another oncologist at Dana-Farber. And he looked at me and he was like, your family's there, your support system's there, and those guys, like, are rocket scientists compared to what I know. He's like, I'm a generalist. He's like, go there, go see them. They're going to take way better care of you. And I would love to see you have great care. So there are doctors out there that are on your side. So I'm very grateful that he sent me to Dana-Farber, even though I was already planning on doing that anyways. So I met with my doctor at the time. I loved him. Seemed great, pretty straightforward. Everything's straightforward when you have the good cancer. This is a very high cure rate. There's so many treatment options out there, all this great stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna kick this shit and keep my life moving on. So I started chemo, I believe, on my mom's birthday. So August 14th of 2017, I started, and by I think October, I did another scan, and it was all gone. I had one spot that didn't even light up like bright enough to still have it be considered cancer, and that was with ABVD. It's adriamycin, bleomycin. I forget what the V is, and I forget what the D is, but you can Google it and figure it out. So I continued out 12 treatments of that. I would go every other week. So I would work 1 week, go be sick 1 week, work 1 week, be sick 1 week, but I did an intermittent leave through work because I needed something to keep my life normal. I'm not somebody that can just sit at home with nothing to do. It would have literally made me go insane. So I finished up those 12 treatments. We rescanned in March. So after that rescan, about a few weeks before that, booked a flight to Florida. And I said, well, shit, if it's good, I'm going to go party in Florida with all my friends. And if it's bad, at least I'm going to be someplace warm and not be stuck in cold, snowy Boston. So unfortunately, in March of 2018, I had activity back again. So the cancer came back, which means that I am refractory. After these treatments, and so I was in remission, came back, it just won't go away. So from there, after I went to Florida and had such a great time, I ended up coming back and starting a chemo regimen called GND. So ice would have been another option, but ice is really toxic on your body. And my doctor said to me, he's like, I don't want to do that to you. There's been the results of doing GND versus ice are very similar. Let's go with the GND because it's not gonna kill your body the way that ice is. So I said, all right, let's do it. So G&D worked again, got a clear scan. So twice in 12 months, I had a clear scan and was cancer free. Now we knew that after this, I was going to have to move forward and have an auto stem cell transplant. And what an auto transplant is they take your cells out of your own body, your own stem cells, and then they kill you with a whole bunch of chemo, and they put all your baby stem cells back in and hope that new fresh blood fights off the cancer. So that was in June of 2018 that I did that. By August of 2018, they had me starting what they call brentuximab, and that was the only point in all of this where I said if I had to feel this way for the rest of my life, I would absolutely give up. Brentuximab was no joke. It definitely took its toll on me. I had major inflammation in my lungs. I had what they call pneumonitis, which is terrible. It's terrible. I couldn't breathe walking up a flight of stairs. I had headaches. I had sweats. I had a really high fever. It's just bad, bad, bad. So we stopped that, but by September, the disease was back again. So the stem cell transplant didn't work, and now here we are, and I have to figure something else out. So I said, it was a spot that was like right here that was lighting up. It was only one spot, and I said, Doc, like, is it safe to assume that maybe that's where it's coming from? Can we do radiation in that area? He said, yep, let's try radiation. So we tried radiation with Dr. Ng, and I really love her. She's a very smart woman. So I did 24 treatments of radiation to my chest. But I do not have radiation burns. That's my port. That's a scar from a biopsy. But I do not have discoloration from radiation burns. But if you want to know how I got rid of those, I'm more than happy to share it with you. So where am I? So December 2018 to January 2019, I did radiation. Then we waited a few weeks, then we scanned again. So we scanned again, didn't look too good. My doctor kind of dropped the ball and didn't call me back to let me know. So I passive-aggressively wrote them a nice email saying, hey, I know you care whether I live or die. Hopefully you want to let me know the results of all these tests we've been doing. So I then went to Italy, didn't look at my phone, had a great time with my dad, one of my best friends, and my brother. I got to see where my dad was born, got to go to an amazing feast in Italy. If you've ever been to Capri, you must go. I could spend a whole week there. There's nothing to do, but I could shop and just be on the ocean and just be so happy. So that was such a therapeutic trip for me to go on. When I got back, they said, yep, it's back. It spread a little bit more. It was in some other organs. I had like a spot on my liver, a spot on my rib. So it was outside of its normal zone. So anytime that lymphoma goes outside the lymphatic system, it's stage 4. I was never re-diagnosed. My diagnosis has always been the same as stage 4 classical Hodgkins lymphoma. So in June of 2019, I started Pembro, which is it's an immunotherapy. My hair didn't fall out, which is why I still have hair. And it basically boosts your cells that fight off the cancer. And after scans, sometimes it was working, sometimes it wasn't working. So eventually we started this lovely pandemic in March of 2020. I was supposed to have an appointment, and I called my doctor and I said, listen, I have a compromised immune system. I already can't breathe because of everything that I've been through. If I get this coronavirus crap, I'm gonna die. So can I skip these appointments with you at the hospital, and can I come back and see you once things kind of settle down and once we know what we're working with? He said, yep, we can absolutely do that. So I made an appointment with him for June, went back in June, and he said that, well, first of all, he wasn't there because he had an emergency. The nurse practitioner was there, who I have since then broken up with the both of them. She didn't know that I had had a scan. I was like thrown into her appointment because it was an emergency, and I just didn't feel like they were looking after my health the way that I needed them to look after my health. So I went and cried to my favorite nurse and was like this, what the fuck do I do? What do I do? I don't want to be with them anymore. She's like, and you know, nurses, they can't tell you what to do. She was like, Jen, all I can do is you got to pick somebody that makes you feel like they're taking care of you and that makes you feel so comfortable. So I called a friend of mine who had been cancer-free for about 1.5 years at the time, and I said, hey, what do you think? She was like, switch to Dr. Armand. And I'd already had a great relationship with her nurse practitioner, just because we just meet somebody and you guys bond. We met We both really just got along with each other. She followed up when I would meet with her instead of my own nurse practitioner from time to time. She's just a good person. Not that the other people weren't good people, they were good people. I think I just outgrew them and what I needed for my own care. So then I called a family member of mine who is an oncologist at another great hospital in Boston, but I never want to mix the family into any of my medical stuff because it's not going to be his fault if something bad happens to me. I don't feel like that's okay. And he said, well, I got a guy in Miami and I got a guy in New York that I'd send you to. Or there's a French doctor at Dana-Farber, and it ended up being Philippe Armand. So that's my doctor, and I love him. He also takes care of somebody else that I knew who has unfortunately passed away, but she adored him in like the 6 years she battled this for. My other friend loves him dearly, and now I do too, because he listens, he gets to the bottom of your problems, and he really does deeply care about his patients, which is huge. So, huge spread, switched doctors. Then we started brentuximab again because there had been good results with using, I think it was on nivolumab, and then put in nivolumab with brentuximab. They'd seen some really good results. So I did one treatment of brentuximab, and I felt okay. I was like, okay, we're in a good spot. I did the next treatment and went into severe anaphylactic shock. I never wish that upon anyone. It is very scary, but I handled that, and we decided we're not going to do that anymore. Turned around and started something else. So I said, hey, Gemzar, Navalbine, and Doxil are 3 of the drugs that I had done before that got me into remission. Can we try those again? Because I know that they're less toxic and they worked before. So we tried them. Once again, I had an allergic reaction to the Doxil. So then I started meeting with I had to go to one floor to do my Doxil, and it was like an allergy floor where I got pumped with IV Benadryl, other things, and they just gave me small doses of it slowly and then gradually increased it so that I wouldn't go into anaphylactic shock with the Doxil. So we did that probably about 3 or 4 treatments, and it wasn't working. So he said, all right, we're going to try bendamustine. So we tried bendamustine, and it worked. So I am basically completely clear. I have one little spot next to my bowel. He said, Jen, it's so small you can't even biopsy it. I have no idea what it is. And he said to me, do you want to move forward with the transplant, or do you want to hold off and do more treatment? And I said, no, let's move forward with the transplant. So here we are. I did the bendamustine in September. So from September till November I did it, and it got rid of everything. Very well tolerated. I was really sick in the beginning, but I could literally feel it killing the cancer in my body, so I kept pushing through it. Now I'm here having a haploidentical transplant, and whatever's wrong with me, because there's something wrong with me outside of the cancer. Blood cancer runs in my family. I have my grandfather who didn't die from leukemia but had leukemia. I have an uncle who has non-Hodgkins lymphoma and is battling that right now, but I think his cancer is actually under control, which is awesome. And then I have lymphoma. There's no way it's not something in our DNA, something within our blood cells that makes us more susceptible to having these cancers. So whatever it is, whatever I've done, I trust my doctor wholly. He said, rather than going with a donor, and I did have 23 possible donors in the donor system, he said, we're going to be better off going with your brother possibly. So we get my brother tested. I know he's my brother. I know that he's from my mom and my dad, but he was not even a 50% match for me. So then the next step, he said, would for it to be either my mom or my dad. So both of my parents are an automatic half match because I am half of one and half of the other. And when everything's said and done, I don't know where along the way things ended up adjusting, but we decided to go with my mom as my donor. So what's going to happen now is I've been into the hospital for, I think it's been like 5 days. Today's day -2. So I'll do my last chemotherapy today. Tomorrow I'll have full body radiation from head to toe. And what that does is it really suppresses my immune system down even more than what the chemotherapy does, so that when I get my mom's cells on December 23rd, they'll be ready just to come into my body, get into my bone marrow, and make themselves a new home. Over the next year, I'll run a risk for what they call graft versus host disease, where My body is the host, but my mom's cells have to graft into the host body. So there's a lot of other things that come up with that. I'm not the expert on it yet because I haven't gone through it, but I know that it can show up as a rash. It can show up as some like respiratory issues. It could have some liver things going on, but I'll be closely monitored by our doctor. I'll have to come every week and have labs done, possibly some blood transfusions, and just stay on top of it. But I'm at one of the best hospitals in the world. I would recommend that everybody go to one of the best hospitals in the world if you can. It's so worth it because there's so many other options out there. So here we are doing a haploidentical allogenic stem cell transplant. People keep asking me when's your surgery? It's not a surgery. It's a 15-minute procedure. This whole thing seems very boring. You're like, well, Jen, why are you in the hospital for so long? Well, I had to do all this chemo. My count is super low. I'm super susceptible to catching anything right now. So that's why they have you stay inpatient. Then I have to go through the body radiation. Then I'll get my mom's cells. And then I think I'm going to feel really, really, really crappy for about 2 weeks after that. My best friend said that I disappeared for 2 weeks last time, and that's how she knew I was really sick. But I just slept the whole time. You're nauseous. You don't feel good. You have fevers. You just literally rested so that your body can rejuvenate and come back to life. I know I have wonderful hair, even though it doesn't look like it right now. But my nurse was very honest with me last night, and she said that it is going to fall out. So I kind of wish that I shaved it before I came in, but at least we'll have some before and after photos of when I got admitted and then when I got discharged from the hospital. So I think I'll be discharged. I'd like to get discharged on my dad's birthday. That would be January 7th, but I think we're looking at more like the 17th. They are letting people out sooner with the pandemic as long as they promise to be safe, because they don't want to keep people in the hospital any longer than they need to be, because no matter how clean you think a hospital is, they're still gross. I'm not a clean freak, but I am a clean freak. There's some things that could be done better, but I could find something wrong in anything. So that is some of my story. It's pretty much all the story, but if you guys have questions about anything, comments, anything else you want to hear more about, leave me a comment and I'll be sure to see what I can do to get back to you. All right? Thank you for listening, and I hope you all have an awesome day.